Here we are. We're live with our elite men's races. We have Lars van der Haar, the defending champion from Rabobank, off the front here as the riders come through the finish right out of the start grid.
Well, I tell you, having van der Haar here, Simon, says a lot about this event. He really is the future of worldwide cyclocross, no question. As a multi-time world champion and our defending champion, as Brian said, to me, he's the man to beat today.
He is, yeah. I think he came here last year as a bit of an unknown name to the American audience, and he went away as the winner of this race, and then had a season that was just incredible. You know, he had he's 7th ranked in the elite world ranking, and he's still got another year left as an under 23. That's the quality of this 21-year-old.
First time we've seen Ryan Chabon there in the Cyclocross World Cannondale kit. And I believe that's Tim Johnson. Tim will be easy to tell because he's got the Red Bull helmet. That's one of the ways you'll be able to identify this, or help tell the difference between our Cannondale Cyclocross World riders. They're also about a foot different in height.
We have Ben Burden here from the Raleigh Clement squad leading the race through the finish after that short crit lap and out onto the main portion of the course. He's one of 2 Raleigh Clement riders on their men's squad. Of course, they have Craig Etheridge, who's riding in the single speed category this year for them as well on the men's side.
Alan Krugoff.
And Alan Krugoff, of course, in the elite, the Boulder local.
And, you know, Simon, right now, I would have to say we've had Ben Burden basically becoming a de facto American over the last couple of years. As a matter of fact, he's going to be basing himself in Boulder now for full time this season. Ben Burden might be the hungriest rider to the most, with the most to gain with a good ride here in Las Vegas today. Ben is one of these guys that, from a previous almost time and place in this sport, he's been a winner at the World Cup level in his career, and now kind of in the second phase of his career, and it's starting to come good again.
That's right. I mean, in the mid-90s, he was one of the up-and-coming Belgian superstars along with Sven Nys. He was 3rd in the Belgian Junior Championships at Coxside, where we had the World Championships this year, behind Nys. He's been on the top of his game, you know, for 15, 16 years. And, yeah, he's definitely going to be...
This is the man, Simon, we were talking about earlier. Just got done racing at the Tour of Britain.
That's right.
Is Chris Jones from Auburn, California there, obviously with some incredible road fitness coming into the event. And I think he's going to use that to his advantage. There was Powers up on the inside. The other
that was Zach McDonald just missed that crash between on the barriers there.
Yeah, it looked as though Jeremy Powers had some sort of struggle there at the barriers. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but he's about 15 wheels back there. John Page there as well.
Tell you what, McDonald could be... That's not how you do it.
That's not how he drew that one up.
Where'd that guy get his UCI point from?
Man. We see here Rob Peters there in the Telenet Fidea kit, about 8 wheels back from the front, sitting behind the tall figure of Ryan Trebone. Chris Jones still off the front there. I'll tell you what, guys, I saw Ben Burden at that Valmont cyclocross race in Boulder last weekend, and he looks much fitter than he did a year ago when he won 4 races in the U.S. We go back here to the front of this race.
Here's another guy who'd like to start his season off with a different tone than last year, and that's Tim Johnson, who looks like he's up riding the front again. Tim, I would have to say the vintage of 2011 is not one that he's going to want to remember. I think he's going to be very happy to get this 2012 season underway, and there he is now, Johnson. That is Peters moving up onto his wheel now. Rob Peters
that's
there.
Peters, yep.
So they have just about nailed back this move now. Boy, Tim Johnson looks like he's back on his A game, doesn't he?
He does, and that looks like the Trek Collective rider, Finsterwald, if I'm not mistaken, there on the front, professional mountain biker from Trek.
I think it's Flukinger.
Lucas
Flukinger.
Lucas Flukiger, yep. He was 2nd last week in the Mountain Bike World Championships.
And there's Johnson taking him around the outside there. I spent some time talking to Johnson in Boulder this summer, Dave, at the finish of the Flagstaff stage at the USA Pro Challenge, and he is extremely motivated. He was cheering on his friend Roy Sutherland there, of course, but Johnson's taken a new approach. He raced a bit more this summer. He spent a lot of time training with the Scratch Labs crew here as Trebone lights it up here coming over Johnson.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be Jones who's going to hold on to that wheel, but okay, we're going to see a lot of that this year. The green machine at it right now, and that is Ryan Trebone hitting out and with authority. All right, these boys are going to have at it today, Simon. So it's Jones now, once again. We're going to be looking for that national championship kit of Powers, and he looks like he's falling out of the top 20.
I believe I saw him back there in about 12th wheel, if I'm not mistaken, Dave. He's tough to spot in that
So his
Americans kit.
his new Rafa National Champions kit, I think, is the best looking one that we've ever had in America, and we'll be able to pick that up in a moment. There's the man from Bend, Oregon, but not a hard rider to identify out there, Ryan Chabon, who started the year off in 2011 with just phenomenal success, and then he had that injury in a warm-up crash in Louisville at the USGP that effectively, I thought it was going to end his season, but he came back, guns a-firing at Nationals, and here we go, big move right there.
Flucky just hit those hurdles at big speed.
Wow.
Just phenomenal.
Boy, and
took the gap out of Trebon and Jones there and just went straight back to the front.
And it is Peters sitting third wheel. Rob Peters here, who was second at the World Championships last year. As I believe it's Peters. Let's go ahead and we'll start identifying. That is Lucas on the front. Ryan Chabon has welded that one back together now. And then you've got Peters and Tim Johnson.
I was talking to Johnson
Justin
before.
Lindeen maybe rolling up there.
Yeah, it looks like that in that off-color blue kit. That's either him or John Page, Dave. I'm not sure. We'll have to see him from the front.
And
But
Van der Haar hits the front.
And Van der Haar, previous winner, U23 world champion. This is one of the biggest talents in the sport right now. And any time that we see him on the front, that should have alarm bells ringing.
Absolutely. The kid had 16 wins last year in Belgium. He was only off the podium in a Super Prestige or GVA once.
incredible.
What's the reason, Simon, that we're seeing this next younger generation, the Peters, the Van der Haars, coming to Cross Vegas? Is there a new mindset in this next generation of European crossers?
I hope so. Yeah, I really hope so. I think, the old school guys that just would never consider racing in America. And I think, just to see Van der Haar, he probably came last year because the team wanted him to, and I'm sure he's come back this year because he wants to, and I think that's the same with Rob Peters.
Yeah, Peters clearly enjoyed his time in America. He was here for a good month and a half last year, spent some time going to checking out American baseball games. He saw a Mariners game and was all over the country. There's going to be Lucas again moving up to the front as you said, just off a top 10 ride, a podium ride at the World Mountain Bike
Second
Championship.
place, yeah. His best ride of the year for sure. He was second in a World Cup.
Boy, that's it. Look at this, Simon.
Man.
They are really giving it gas right now.
Yeah.
He accelerated again into that run-up, hopped over them, got that gap immediately. We'll see him do that every lap, I'd imagine, this evening. Van der Haar's trying to come across here.
Look at that, though. At will, Van der Haar's going across. He's got an extra gear right now.
Yep, Tim Johnson there in the middle, trying to chase across with Trebon behind him.
If I were anybody else in this field, I would realize that today might be a day we're racing for second. These guys look very, very good.
I think some of these teams actually need to stop trying to do the tactic thing and actually race, just ride hard, because I don't think they're going to win it by...
Tactics aren't going to win this race. You're not going to out-tactic these guys today.
Well, you can be too clever. You can overthink it, and it's a big mistake.
Yeah, especially at this point of the race when it's so hectic here. You have a guy like Flukinger who's going over those run-ups at such speed. You've just got to put your head down and go. We have the German national champion there, Christoph Pfingsten behind Trebon there. He's in that white kit. John Page in the light blue. Rob Peters behind him. Chris Jones, Ben Burden trying to close down that gap. That looked like, was that Adam Craig in the Rabobank kit there on the front of that chase as we go here. And we have Tim Johnson on the front of the race here as they come through.
I got to tell, it does a heart good if you're American Cross fan to see that man back up on the front, putting the pressure on. Tim Johnson looks like he's back for 2012.
He does indeed. He does indeed.
There's Mitch Hoke, the Cliff Bar rider. Both Mitch and Troy were a great part of the season last year. Those kids have a lot of fun out there.
I was happy to see Mitch in the pit and at Belmont on Sunday. We both pitted, unfortunately, late in the race, and I have to say I topped him by a couple of spots in that event. So
he's one of the nicest kids in this sport.
Man, he is. He's a good kid.
Johnson with the look over his shoulder to see the kind of damage. I don't think it's as extensive as he thought it might have been right now. There's still a lot of riders in contention here, Simon.
It is. I mean, we've got 50, 52, 53 minutes of racing left yet. There's plenty of time. I think at the moment it's just being out of trouble, getting in that front group. That front group will whittle itself down.
I believe the Frenchman Geoffrey's moved up now as well for Telmet Fidea.
Yeah, so Arnaud Jouffroy. Yeah, he's in third place with the German champion sitting on his wheel.
What can you tell us about the Frenchman? Another one of these riders that looks to be leading a new generation into the sport for his nation of France.
Yes, he was a medalist as a junior at the Worlds. He's as an under 23. He's a top 10 World Cup rider, fourth in European Championships, fourth in the World Championships. You know, he's he's going to be one of the next good elite riders for sure.
He'll be one of the 10 best in the sport, I would say, in the next 5 years.
I'm sure you'll see him up there for sure, yeah.
So, Simon, your perspective on Tim Johnson's ride back in 1999, the bronze medal that he won, is that the start of something, a modern era of American cyclocross? Do you look at that on the timeline of things? You were a person that was been there before and after.
I think it was. I think it suddenly gave Americans hope that and the belief that it was possible. And I think off the back of that, we had Matt Kelly?
Yes.
Who medaled, and we also had...
was world champion that year.
That's right,
and
yeah.
You know what's interesting, Simon, is the rest of that podium that Tim Johnson was with was Bart Vellens and Sven Nys. And those guys did okay with the sport, didn't they?
They didn't do bad at all, but there again, neither did Tim.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tim's had a great career, and as a road rider and as a cyclocross rider. And
there's a dividing line, a Mason-Dixon line in this race where the seriousness stops at about 40 riders back or so. Well, how deep do UCI points go in a C1, Simon? Is it 15?
Top 15, yeah.
So, yeah. Because there is a party element to this race, but it's not in this group, I guarantee you.
If you're outside of the top 30 at Cross Vegas,
all of a
should
sudden,
be enjoying yourself.
All of a sudden, those hand-ups look a little more relevant. Boy, Johnson's going to take a turn now, and that's Peters going with him here.
I talked to Johnson before the start tonight. He was pinning on his number in a minivan next to the team area. Wanted to stay out of the limelight, wanted to stay out of the attention, play it quiet, play it cool, and be calm and on his own there. And he's focused here, and he's ready to attack this race.
Yeah, Simon, I don't know on your perspective, but here in North America, I don't know that there's a rider who gets more respect than Tim Johnson for what he's done in the sport. And the word ambassador for cyclocross comes to mind. Tim has given way more back than he's gotten from this sport. And it's going to be nice to see him have a strong... With Louisville in 2013, he's going to be one of the guys that's been waiting for this one his whole career. And he's one of the riders that you'd like to see on that team having a good ride. He really does represent a movement in this sport, in my mind.
Yeah, and on his day, he's very competitive. I don't think he's a top 10 world's rider, particularly. I think you've got other riders now that are probably more capable of that in Louisville. But I think just the fact that he's... hopefully he'll be there. Hopefully he'll get selected, and hopefully he'll have the kind of day that can crown a career for him, really. Because I think, like you say, he's deserved to have a bigger race in America. And
if there's one guy in the American field that probably deserves to have that experience, I think Tim would be in the top of that list. I'm surprised to see Powers having trouble here, but maybe he's going to luck out by the fact that this is a 20-rider group now. Even though there's little splits, it's going to be incredibly hard to move from 15th up to find the front of this bike race, especially when they're doing this.
Yeah, with the speed of this race, it's incredibly hard to move forward even 5 wheels, let alone 20 wheels at this point. But these guys are looking around a bit. We've seen Geoffroy, we've seen Johnson look over their shoulders. Page
is right there. This is going to be another guy really wants to have a good performance here to get the year off to a good start. John Page hanging right in there. Boy, it's interesting when you see Page and Johnson together, because these two came up through the ranks together. They raced as juniors together, and they both have gone about it in different ways. Tim has basically stayed in the United States more, while John Page has based himself in Belgium, and as we were talking about earlier, has been one of the very few Americans that's taken a full-time committed move to Belgium. And it's something that I think just a handful of Americans have done. And Tim Johnson has kind of gone that other route, trying to race in North America, as has the man attacking right now, Ryan Chabon. We were talking about that earlier, how they've made a very successful career racing mostly in North America. Absolutely.
I think he's when he goes to Europe, he doesn't fulfill the potential he shows when he's in America. And it's whether it's the style of racing, the travel, the environment of being in Europe, he just doesn't embrace it and perform as well as everybody knows in America knows that he can do. He's incredibly strong, incredibly fast. And I think if he ever just put it all together on a big day in Europe, there's no one that could touch him. He is phenomenal.
It's incredible to see Trebone here in the neon green and black of the Cannondale CyclocrossWorld.com squad.
Something I don't think I ever thought I'd see.
No, I mean, he's been the most vocal over the last few years about the back and forth between guys like Powers and Driscoll and Johnson when they've ridden together. And now here he is coming over the top of Johnson, attacking Tim and letting Tim sit back there in the chase. And we see, I believe that's John Page taking up the chase here in front of Johnson.
Yeah, he's going to charge it right now. So that is Page in blue, as you can see. It really is a tremendous crowd and vibe that we've got here. And John Page now goes. And so we're going to see Peters trying to cover that move. That's Rob Peters of the Telnet Fidea team, the Belgian rider there, jumping out of that group. And it's shattering back behind Page right now. This is Trebon on the spy flyover.
How about Page? I mean, he's riding at this point without a main sponsor. He's riding without a contract. He has some support, but he's planning to base himself in Park City and in Belgium this year. And he's really riding, hopefully, for some form of salary at this point in the year with the World Cup season just around the corner.
Tough situation to be in, isn't it, Simon? I mean,
it is. It's very hard. Yeah, he's based himself in Belgium, and I think he's at a point in his career where he doesn't quite know whether he can stay in Belgium, come back to the US. If he comes back to the US, can he make a living? Can he support his family? It's a tough one.
Can a guy like Page at this point in his career get the start money that he needs racing in Belgium week in, week out to make it viable?
Off the back of his second place at the World Championships in Belgium, that was a few years ago now, and the money definitely goes down if you don't keep those performances coming. And last year he didn't really step up and perform as he had done in the years previously. So
this is a make or break year for Page. I think if he doesn't get it done this year, that we'll be seeing him racing domestically from here on in.
Last year when we saw him good, he was good, but he never pieced more than one or two races together. He dealt with some sickness, he dealt with an injury, and it was really unfortunate to see him be that inconsistent. When we did see him shine, he in fact felt so good after the Christmas period races in Belgium to come back to the U.S. as a surprise to show up at Nationals in January. He finished third there, not the result he was looking for when he came back, but we did see him surge there coming into January last year.
Yeah, I mean, for him, a third it doesn't mean anything. It's win or nothing, I think, for a guy like Page. There's a great new book that's come out from Jeff Proctor called Behind the Stare that talks a lot about those two riders, actually, and the different approach that they've had to their careers. Highly recommended. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at it yet,
I've
Simon,
just picked one up today. I just got Jeff to sign me a copy.
I have as well.
Hey, you could give him a copy of your book. So there's a man who knows his way how to bunny hop the barriers there. Johnson's running today.
Yeah, Johnson runs the barriers. We see there Zach McDonald, the young Rafa Focus rider, U23 national champion from the U.S., hopping the barriers. There are two men that know the front of Cross Vegas better than anyone, and that is Ryan Trebon and Jamie Driscoll, the two men that have a tendency to go out there and either get off the front and drive a long solo break here, or get on the front of the chase and drive that. And Trebon's doing it on the front of the race today. As we see Justin Lindeen there for Bike Reg, it looks like he's struggling a bit. He's not in the position that he'd like to be. I believe that's Dylan McNicholas from cyclocrossworld.com there in the red kit.
Another rider that I'm expecting to see a lot of this year, McNicholas, where he's going to be the emerging rider from the East Coast.
Yeah, he and Crystal Anthony are both riding for the regional cyclocrossworld.com team, not to be confused with these guys, Trebon, Caitlin Antonou, etc. It's another team that's regional for those elite riders.
Once again, first time we've seen Ryan Trebon in the Cannondale Cyclocross World Colors as he's our solo leader right now. We're going to get a look at the chase, but it looks like the gap has opened up right now for Ryan here.
Yeah, I think we've got Tim Johnson sitting on the front of that chase group, just policing any attacks.
Vander Haar, the German champion. That is Peters right now getting up onto the wheel of Page. So that's our top three right now. I
think that might be Jouffroy in third.
I believe it is.
Is it? There you go.
I think so, yeah. Yeah.
They both riding for that same Telnet Fidea team, and they've both been animators up in this group.
I think it's the first time I've seen a rider on disc brakes in a UCI race as well.
And Simon, let's talk about that very quickly. Brian, I'll throw it to you on this one as well, something that a lot of people didn't think would ever happen.
Yeah, I was walking around out in the team area before the race tonight, and I was expecting to see a little bit more disc frames out there. Raleigh, Focus, Cannondale are all making disc-ready frames. These guys, the Cyclocross World team, are riding the cable-actuated BB7 RSL the newer version of their road caliper, which is a little bit lighter weight version they launched this week at Interbike. That was the only team I saw out in the parking area, Dave, that was running the disc today. I talked to a couple of guys with Rafa Focus, Tom Hopper, Jeremy Powers, mechanic, and he said they're still another month or two away from seeing those discs on their bikes. They're waiting for hydraulics to come to market.
Simon, what's the real benefit to having disc brakes on a cyclocross bike?
Mud clearance. You don't get the mud collecting around the traditional brake positions on the seat stays on the top of the forks, and then just stopping power. You can brake a lot later, and they're not affected by mud, water, ice.
So this
as
will
much as a rim brake would be.
So this is a significant change in the technology. Is it the most significant you've seen in the last decade?
Yeah, and it's the only thing that's really changed in cyclocross bikes really over the last 20 years. Nothing else has changed. It's a standard bike.
It actually, you're not kidding, are you? Outside of like some, the SRAM gears have changed a little bit, but basically a cyclocross bike from 20 years ago weighs almost the same.
Not quite, but it looks the same. It rides
right.
It rides similarly. Obviously you've got such great developments in
with the carbon
composites
fiber
and equipment and
threadless headset versus the quill stem, etc.
Yeah.
At Velo News right now, actually, we're running a weekly series with our contributor Michael Robson, outlining new developments in disc brake technology for cross, tips for setting up your cross system, and so forth. Yesterday, we featured the TRP Parabox. TRP is a sponsor here of Cross Vegas, and the Parabox is basically a device that takes a mechanical cable-actuated lever and converts that into a hydraulic system mounting to the stem.
Which is going to be, with no hydraulic brake levers for these bikes right now, that's going to be a critical juncture there.
Absolutely. You just get a lot better action with the hydraulic system. And word is that we may be seeing a hydraulic system come to market, a full hydraulic system, at some point in the relative near future, but we haven't seen it yet.
Well, certainly an appropriate race to be breaking out this new technology here at Interbike. That's for sure. The big industry trade show that takes place. So, Simon, once again now, we've got Ryan Trevone out of Bend, Oregon off the front here. That's his teammate, Tim Johnson, sitting second wheel right behind his old nemesis there, Jonathan Page. Now, so this is the man that they're chasing, going back to the front of the race here. Ryan Trevone out of Bend, Oregon.
It is, and no Rafa Focus riders kind of featuring near the front of that chase group at the moment. I'd expected at least one of them there to kind of contribute to the chase to get Trevone back. But
well, let's take a look at who is here now. Obviously, Johnson's going to be sitting on this chase because it's his teammate that's up course now.
Well, we've got Jouffroy, Johnson, Fluckinger, and
that's Peters.
Right. Yeah. And that's the junction's been made to Trevone there by Page.
So Van der Haar,
and we still don't have a Focus Rafa rider in there.
Well, Chris Jones really lit it up as they left the start line now, but certainly that's been the man, along with Tim Johnson, that's really been the biggest anime. There's now Powers is there.
Powers in 10th. You got 13 riders clear with
Zach
McDonald on the back, and then Jamie Driscoll just off the back of that, chasing 3, trying to get back onto that leading group of 10.
In my opinion, Simon, Zach McDonald's the most exciting American bike racer out there right now. That kid is a showman. Unbelievable, some of the stories that you hear from him last year, including his ride in Madison at our national championships, where he went flying off the course in the first few hundred meters and chased his way back up into that lead group. The kid is an exciting bike racer to watch.
He is, and he did some great rides in the World Cups in Europe, and be interesting to follow his development over the next few years.
Is he one of the Americans, Simon, that you would look at as potentially going to the top of the sport? Does he have that kind of chops?
I think so. I think you've got the potential here. That's never been in doubt. It's how people react to spending long chunks of time in Europe and just how they can fit their life around the racing. It's not as cut and dried as being physically and technically gifted.
Interesting kid, too, coming from Bremerton, Washington. Not your regular place to grow up in America, as we're looking now at that front group. So that is Powers in that. It's mostly white.
It's Kabush.
Jeff Kabush. First time we've talked about the Canadian mountain bike Olympian. He's got a new team. Well, actually, I guess it's no.
Scott Three Rocks this year, the new mountain bike squad that carried him into the Olympic season.
It's good to see a guy like Jeff get that support. He's been another very successful rider here at Cross Vegas as well. Now, you want to talk about a course, or horses for courses, if you will. Well, this is a course that suits a guy who can throw down a lot of watts, a lot of power, and Kabush is one of those guys.
He is, definitely, and Powers has made the front of that group again.
All of a sudden, it really has changed. We haven't talked about Kabush or Powers much, but now that's the front of the bike race. Jeff Kabush, the Canadian, then Jeremy Powers, then Tim Johnson.
Yeah, Kabush just off 8th place in the World Mountain Bike Championships last weekend.
They're not taking any dollars in that front group, that's for sure.
Yeah, so him and Fluckinger, they're obviously in good shape off the back of the mountain bike racing.
Got to say, impressive to see our national champion getting his nose back up into the front of the race, too.
Yeah, crashed there
John
for
Page. Is down there.
Oh,
John
boy.
Page is down at the barriers.
You don't come back from that today.
Yeah, that's a tough break for John Page there.
And that's the downside. Sure, it's a 1 in 20 chance that'll happen on the barriers, but you're going over them maybe 7 times here today. So, it's all about gambling here in Vegas.
Kabush there on the front. We saw him get the USGP win last year in Fort Collins in the mud. Good to see him on the front here.
There's the bear, Troy Wells.
Yeah.
Talking about him earlier, the Cliff Bar rider. Tons of panache for that young man. So Carl Decker coming through there as well.
Mitch Hoke, the Cliff Bar rider there in that group.
Looks like they're showing 5 to go on the counter right now.
This is going to be long.
It is. The women's race went long, too. This is a tough course. You don't want it to go way short either. Did the officials try to err on long versus short if you have to, Simon?
Well, depends who the official is.
Depends what time dinner is.
Yeah, exactly. If I have any influence, I'd always make them try and get them to go short. But this is a long lap, and it's quite hard to get an exact race distance when it's close to a 9-minute lap.
Well, and now we're taking a look at Powers here. There's your national champions kit from Rafa. First time we've seen it on the front here in 2012. So Powers, then Johnson, then Kabush. And I believe that is that Burden that we're looking at.
That is fourth wheel there.
The blue jersey in fourth wheel.
Powers opened his cyclocross season, his UCI season anyway, at Nittany Lion Cross last weekend, got a win, and here he is attacking Cross Vegas about halfway through, taking a bottle in the pit.
It really is cooling down out here now, but as Simon was talking about during the women's race, the officials are allowing them to hand up during the middle part of the race, something you don't see much in the sport of cyclocross. But then again, in Europe, you don't race much over 70 degrees. It might not happen all year.
Exactly, yeah,
right.
yeah. But it's still very warm. I mean, it feels like it's cooled down again, but it is still very hot.
And last year you had one of those seasons where it was abnormally hot in the beginning of the year, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
But so
we've got 9 guys there. We've got 9 guys, so we've got Powers.
I'm surprised
Johnson.
that Vanderhaar's the caboose in this group.
Yeah.
Maybe struggling just a little bit right now.
Bush there, Burden behind him in fourth wheel.
So Ben Burden is the Belgian rider we were talking about at the opening of the show, who's riding for that Raleigh Clement team, a new team here for 2000. Well, sort of a new team. I guess a team that's taking some big steps forward for 2012 as well. Don Kellogg does a great job with that squad. Vanderhaar looks like he's ready to go skateboarding. Vanderhaar with that helmet on, it's definitely a unique look for these guys.
It is, yeah. And so, just the 2 Americans, I think, in that lead group.
Well, okay, and they're both on the front right now.
Oh, no, sorry, 3. We've got Trebon in there as well. Yeah.
Trebon sitting all the way, well, there's another, there you go. Boy, Vanderhaar's getting tailed on and off this group right now.
Yeah, we had John Page in here as well. He crashed at the barriers the last time over. Fell his way out of this group.
I highly doubt we will see him in this group again here today.
Tough break for John Page.
I mean, if Vanderhaar's getting tailed off, you can only imagine how hard it's going to be to chase into this group. Trebon looking pretty comfortable right now. Actually, that's
I wouldn't worry too much about Vanderhaar. I think he looks
he'll be okay.
Enough,
yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Actually, you know what? He's moving around at will, isn't he? I mean, I wouldn't worry too much either. You're right, Simon.
These guys are backing off the gas pedal just slightly.
And that's going to
be
McDonald's going to come back into the group now. Zach looks like he's going to bring a couple riders with him here.
He's in that spot where you want to get on there so badly, and as soon as someone ticks the pace up, you're right off.
And that's it.
Again.
Burden goes now. So Ben Burden, he was full sleeves of tattoos, doesn't he? Fairly well inked up.
And his legs as well.
Yep, he takes that pretty seriously. He's one of those Belgian guys that loves American culture. He's into muscle cars and rock and roll music.
That's right. Yeah, I don't think he feels like he quite fits in Belgium.
No, and yeah, as we said, he's certainly found a home here in America, riding for Raleigh, which is based up in Kent, Washington, right outside of Seattle, and they have made a huge play in the cyclocross world here over the last couple of years, taking it very seriously. And it's really nice to see a brand, Simon, that I'm sure you're super familiar with from many, many years of cycling history. But Raleigh is back and in full effect.
Raleigh's back. That was my first ever job. I worked for Raleigh when I left school for 3 years. In my formative years, so and my dad worked for Raleigh, and I think I grew up in Nottingham, and I think half of the population of Nottingham worked at Raleigh at some point when it was in its heyday. Sadly, now it's not quite what it was, but there used to be.
Do they still have operations in
They
Nottingham?
do, yeah, but it's a very small office now. At its height, there were 13,000 people worked in the Raleigh factory and the Raleigh offices, and it covered. Them and John Player Cigarettes covered pretty much the whole of Nottingham.
Oh, that is, 13,000 people.
Yeah, it was a big factory.
It's one of the original brands in this sport. Like, you know, like what Wilson is to tennis, Raleigh is to bicycles.
And so it's good to see them. Good to see them still hanging in there.
Yeah, and they're putting 5 riders to work this cyclocross season with Burden, Alan Krugoff, Craig Etheridge, Carolyn Money, and Nicole Duke here as we have Burden off the front. Jeff Kabush is chasing here. The Scott Three Rocks rider powers behind him with Johnson, and I believe that's Geoffroy on his wheel.
Simon, they're getting air up over the top of this. Is that something we're going to see more and more on these flyovers? Is it something that UCI is worried about?
I don't think so, no.
Okay, good.
As long as there's a soft landing, I don't think they'll worry too much about that one.
If Zdenek Štibar and Danny Summerhill have anything to say about it,
there you
there'll
go.
be more air.
Yeah. It's a good photo opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good front page shot, that's for sure. There's the man they're chasing, the Belgian Burden right now for the Raleigh team, up out of the saddle. He's gone to the whip now. That's Jeff Kabush out of Victoria, British Columbia.
That's a great gap back to third in the chasing group now.
Well, it's going to be.
Kabush can hook up with Burden there, that's going to be.
That's 20 seconds.
Because these guys aren't riding.
No.
Okay, that's what you look. That's a Mexican standoff right
and
there.
When you've got teams there with more than one rider, they really need to get their game together.
Well, and boy,
Page
has rejoined the group. There he was in blue.
Yep.
This is amazing to see. Ben Burden is capitalizing on that. You said it earlier, Simon. They're getting tactical back in that group, and it's benefiting Burden greatly right now. And Kabush.
We'll see Telenet looking at the CannondaleCyclocrossWorld.com guys and expecting them to pull. They're the Americans. They're on their home course here. Rafa Focus is there with 2 riders as well, and Tim Johnson and Ryan Trebone don't look like they're going to bite that off.
But Simon, just like in road thing with World Tour, do the Americans then look at the Belgians and say, "But you're the Belgians. You guys are the world level." You know, is there any of that?
Well, I don't know. I don't think so much. I think
it's just ride your bike, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I think if you're strong enough and you want to win enough, you'll ride.
So, Ben Burden, as we said, is a former World Cup winner. Almost seems like another lifetime, to be honest.
I think for him it feels like it as well. I don't think that's just for us. I think he feels like it was a different lifetime as well. You know,
not joking about that. I really do mean that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he was entrenched in the whole Belgian cyclocross scene. He was part of it. He was there with the Wellens and the Naces and the real in the heart of it. And now he started a new life in the US with different sponsors, and he's
kind of in a lot of ways a new life for him. And I think it'll be really interesting to see how it goes. I think that Ben already realizes the American cross community is a tight knit but friendly group of people, and he's found a family over here.
Yeah, he's got 17, 18 years of experience as well at the highest level, and that never goes away. You never forget that. No, you get older and you get slightly slower, but you don't forget how to race. And
you see things like Ben checking his tire pressure with his thumb still. He's got a lot of those old school techniques, but it looks like he's got some company now. It's the Canadian Kabush has joined him. So Ben Burden, Jeff Kabush now, the front of this bike race. Raleigh and Scott's together here. On the backside of this course, this is a massive soccer complex that we're racing in here. I guess there's something like 20 soccer fields that fill up the Desert Breeze Park here. On the backside of that course, you don't see a lot of crowd, but they do put in a lot of distance back there. But then right here, it is packed tonight down by the finish area. As a matter of fact, this is going to go down. Lance Armstrong raced here one year in his career. That was a good 15,000. I think tonight's going to be a massive crowd as well. This should go down as one of our best Cross Vegas races ever as far as attendance and excitement goes.
Yeah, we see here Johnson's jumping out in chase. This chase group has split. We have 3 riders there in pursuit of Kabush and Burden.
So
looks like Geoffroy is with Johnson there from Telnet Fidea.
So Kabush and Burden is who we're looking at right now. Now that's
Powers.
chase 1. Powers, Johnson, and that's Peters, isn't it?
It is Peters. So Peters second in the Worlds in January at Koksijde.
He also was one of the 2 Belgians. Bart Vellens was another that spent well over a month here in the States. They went up and did Starcross up in Seattle. They then went and did the USGP in Madison, Sun Prairie, and
they went and checked out Louisville venue for Worlds this year, just to take a look at it.
So they did due diligence, certainly, from the Telnet Fidea team.
Yeah, it's sad to see that might not end up paying off for Bart Wellens with his health scare at the end of last season.
I think that he made a lot of fans over here in America when he was racing. He was very outgoing, and the big disappointment, I think, for a lot of the Americans that we won't see him again this year.
And this
about 11 or 12 seconds, that lead.
To this group, so chase 1 once again is Peters, Johnson, and Powers. Burden and Kabush right now as they're about to hit that barrier section. I'm going to say for a lot of folks, I'm sure Tim Johnson's ride is going to have some people smiling out there today.
Yeah, I would have to say it will after a tough year for him 12 months ago. Powers there trailing off the back of that group just slightly. He's just looking not quite sharp this evening.
You know, and Burden, who in my opinion, Simon, coming into this race, I think he was the hungriest rider in that start grid. For whatever reason, I think Ben really has something to prove here, and he right now is certainly doing that.
He looks in great shape. He looks super skinny, really ripped.
As I think I said before we went on air, Dave, that he was my pick for the night. I mean, I saw him a week ago in Boulder, and he looks fitter than he has in half a decade at least.
He's getting stronger right now. As a matter of fact, he's applying more pressure. That's it. He's dropped Kabush. Now Johnson is going to pick up the chase. So Johnson becomes chase 1. Boy, look how quickly Kabush was put out of the picture there.
Yeah.
Wow. Simon, I didn't think, Brian, you're absolutely right. That's your man to beat today.
Burden does look strong.
Hyper-motivated Ben Burden right now. What would that be about right there? Is he shouting to the pit, possibly?
Yeah. Maybe for a bottle, maybe. Yeah. He was he raced at Valmont last weekend, and he carried a bottle in his pocket, and he was drinking every lap down the finishing straight there. So,
although it really, I mean, if people joining us around the world right now, I'm saying 65, 70 degrees right now here at the venue.
Yeah, thereabouts, yeah.
No wind. It's really comfortable conditions. As a matter of fact, about as lovely of an evening as you're going to find in Vegas. Smells fresh.
Not something you often use to describe Vegas.
Not the Strip, at least.
No, Burden's back on his bike here. Tim Johnson's bringing this
coming
back in.
Down now, though, Simon. Johnson looks like he'll be the first to make contact, but it looks like we might see a group 4, 5 riders possibly here. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens now.
Powers is coming around Kabush there.
Kabush is done.
Yeah.
He made a big effort, and that's these are the risks you take. It's easy to overextend yourself in a sport like this. You spend a little much too much time in the red zone and find yourself in trouble quickly.
Yeah, it definitely pays. It'll be interesting to see how far back the next group is with...
So this is now a group of 5.
Yeah.
Amazingly, Burden has been joined here by, let's give you the order, Johnson, then Powers. And that looked like, was it Kabush still in that group there? And then Peters.
Yeah, and they'll come down through this small little wooded area and around the sharp left-hand 180-degree corner onto the finish straight here in just a moment. There'll be a short rise before the finish. I'll be curious if one of these guys will hit out there.
Kabush isn't as much trouble as I thought he was, actually. When I thought that he was possibly giving up the ghost there, but now he's come good again. He had a bad moment there, but he fought through it. That's what bike racing is all about. You're going to have a couple moments like that in an hour-long cyclocross race.
That's a big gap there.
But it's a big gap back to this group with Van der Haar and Trebon.
Big enough, I don't think they become a part of the conversation again. We're 2/3 of the way into this race right now. They're seeing 3 on that counter. As in the white jersey, they're up out of the saddles, Powers, as he tries to hold on to the wheel of Ben Burden, then Tim Johnson, then Jeff Kabush, and Rob Peters, the Belgian rider who was second at the World Championships last year. And there goes Peters.
Powers might be having some sort of issue with his lower back or something. It looked like he was trying to stretch there, take his hand off the bars on the finish straight before Burden accelerated up the right-hand side.
And if he has an Achilles heel for Powers, I think it is that lower back, which is not unusual for a cross racer, is it, Simon?
It's not. 23 seconds back to Jouffroy and 29 seconds back to Jamie Driscoll leading that second chase group.
Right,
so that's a big gap.
Yeah, there is our national champion from Madison, Wisconsin last year, his first ever national championship. As Powers actually has got Tim Johnson, who's a 3-time national champion in America here on his wheel, and then Ben Burden. So it is going to be Peters that has attacked out of this group and is applying the pressure right now, and he's running it up the road. Oh, excuse me, we've brought him back now.
Yeah, Peters is still there. It's Jouffroy that's in between the two groups that's chasing solo. Powers leads these guys through the infield here. They'll come up on our TRP brakes, run up here shortly. You can see Johnson there, head down, his Red Bull helmet. He wears the bright green and black of the Cannondale CyclocrossWorld.com squad. Powers is in the U.S. National Champions kit for Rafa Focus, winning that title in Madison, Wisconsin in January of this year. Kabush gapping off slightly there at the run-up, but making contact there with Rob Peters' rear wheel.
Two people I would have expected to see in that front group is Trebon and Van der Haar. I'm surprised that they're not there.
And there's the men you're speaking of right now.
And there's two Cannondale cyclocross wheel guys on the front of that group.
That's Driscoll and Trebon. They're getting caught out.
And two
right
Rabobanks as well, Van der Haar with his teammate.
They'll be very thankful Tim Johnson has made this selection here, representing that Cannondale Cyclocross World team. So Powers, then Johnson, as we're going back to, I think, one of the third or fourth groups.
Yeah,
right
that's
now.
Yannick Ekman, the young German, Boulder, Colorado-based German with Cal Giant. I have to say that Trebon and Driscoll are likely applying some negative pressure at the front of that chase group here. We see these guys back off a little bit, but with the two Cannondale men behind, that gap is staying around a half a minute. You see Brady Cappius there from Cliff Bar go over the barriers.
Ben Burden is going to end up on the podium today. It's really a matter of what step in my mind.
Man.
Well, as long as he doesn't do too many attacks and too much sitting on the front in these next 3 laps. But he's in great shape for sure.
He's certainly been showing his cards more than anyone else in that group. Settling into their rhythm once again. Burden, Johnson, Powers, Peters, and Kabush right now. So 2 Americans, 2 Belgians, and a Canadian. So it looks like Powers is going to attack. Actually, just picking up some speed to grab a bottle, grab a drink, cooling, evaporative technique.
And they can, the gap's big enough now for them to look across the course at that point and see the chase. So
this is the first time we've seen Rob Peters' nose in the wind in this front group tonight. He was cagey last year. Rode, I believe, onto the podium here at Cross Vegas, Simon.
As Simon was saying a moment ago, not having Van der Haar here is a really big surprise to me. Not only so maybe Van der Haar was in a little bit of trouble earlier when we were watching him yo-yoing off the back of that group. You got to remember, and Simon, you've talked about this earlier too, it's not an easy trip from Brussels to Las Vegas. And it's not only is it a lot of time in the airplane, but the big time zone change, the climate change. These guys are dealing with a lot out here.
Absolutely. The first couple of days you're here, you wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and at 8:30 at night you want to go to sleep. And at 8:30 tonight he was warming up to start a race at 9:30. So his body's not quite sure where he is at the moment, but he's been here since the weekend. I think they arrived on Saturday night. So.
Oddly enough, right now we're finding out if he's a morning person or not.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, right. I guess in Brussels it would be, about 5 in the morning, a little after that.
Yeah, and he's just sat up straight away. He's not going to tow that group round anymore.
He's actually carrying a bottle on his bike, something I don't think I've ever seen before from a Belgian at this level.
Powers
I believe a few of these guys do.
Yeah, they are,
yeah.
Johnson is as well, yeah.
Because you're not going to need to shoulder the bike on a day like today.
No,
that's
not
for
at
sure.
all, no.
On a grass course like this, we were talking about disc brakes earlier, and there's Johnson using them as well. This isn't the kind of course where it's really going to come into play, but we are at Interbike, and this is a new technology, and certainly it's an interesting time in the sport. How those disc brakes will affect the racing we'll be seeing later in the season.
Absolutely, yeah. I think for a team to try and mix it with disc and regular wheels, it's just too many wheels.
Well, and each
teams
frame
can't.
has a specific setup, right?
Yeah.
So,
But if you're talking about 4 or 5 pairs of wheels for each bike, then it's a lot of wheels too.
cracking the whip right now. It's Johnson as he comes around Kabush there. Peters looks like he's going to cover that move without too much trouble. Let's see how much pressure that puts, and do they spring the trap right now?
And Kabush is having a bit of a gap go out on his front wheel, and Peters is down out of that front group. Peters is down, and Johnson is alone.
So the file tread?
What were we saying earlier about it not being so slippery? Yeah.
Man.
Ouch.
Well, you know what? You got to remember, this is when the dew point changes out here as well. The grass does get a little slicker when it gets colder at this point in the day. And that's going to be
game over for Peters.
That's a
isn't it?
TKO right there.
Yeah, he does not look comfortable.
We've lost Vanderhaar and now the Telnet Fidea. Right?
It's all North American up at the front other than Ben Burden, and he's based in Colorado.
Hey, it's all Massachusetts. Tim Johnson right now is flying the colors for Cannondale Cyclocross World. Well, don't call it a comeback. It looks like Tim Johnson is back and in full effect here in 2012. As take a look at this gap now. Was it Kabush or Powers sitting second wheel?
That was Powers coming across there. Johnson's got about 4 or 5 seconds now. He's not going to back off the accelerator. This might be a Johnson-Powers duel that we're setting up for here. I'm not sure where Ben Burden is. I'd expect to see him in front of Jeff Kabush, who looks to be struggling. Yeah, there's Burden there sitting third.
So that is Powers in the white Rafa jersey. Now Ben Burden there up over the Spy flyover. There's our leader. And, he's going to be coming up rapidly on one final lap of racing remaining here. So Tim Johnson has put himself in very good position right now. How many times has this story been told? Tim Johnson and Jeremy Powers locking horns now at the front of this bike race.
Yeah, there's Peters. He's back in a 3-man group. It looks about 45 seconds or a minute back. It's unfortunate to see him get out of the front of the race there with the crash at an unfortunate time. Johnson comes onto the finish straight here. Powers has got him in his reach here as he comes across onto the rear wheel of the Red Bull.
It looks like Johnson's going to have some company.
Yeah.
As they're seeing 2 to go as they come through right now. 2 to go. That's Burden in the blue. The Belgian rider that we've been talking about, he's been a big part of this conversation, but right now the story is Johnson, Powers, and Burden. We've lost Peters out of the mix. It does not look like Vanderhaar is there. Even though Jonathan Page was able to fight his way back up into the group after crashing earlier, he's no longer a part of this conversation either. And there they are, 2 of the great American champions, including your reigning national champion, Jeremy Powers, with Tim Johnson. There you go, and Powers is hit now. Powers has gone big.
Looks like Flukinger is arguing with the guys in this chase group with Vanderhaar, Trebone as they come through the finish straight there, and Vanderhaar lights it up to jump out in pursuit of those guys up front.
Well, just like days of old, once again here.
Man.
Now that second chase group were 21 seconds behind Burden in third, and that had got Trebon, Vanderhaar, Jouffroy, and Flukiger.
Boy, all right, well, that is the story here. Is there are about a lap and a half now from the finish. It's a full hour of racing for our men as we're picking up once again before our TRP break zone. Best brakes in the world from TRP. And I don't think they're going to be using them much out here today as Powers and Johnson. Once again, Jeremy Powers in that white Rafa jersey is our national champion. Tim Johnson has been national champion 3 times in his career. One of the most decorated American cyclocross races of all time. The first American to ever stand on the podium at the World Championships back in 1999 in Poprad. Like I said, that's the Czech Republic.
And here's Vanderhaar with Trebone. Jouffroy there, Flukiger.
Boy, and you see
Powers is laying it down there.
Although he does not look like Johnson dropping the head a little bit. He's giving it everything he's got right now.
Page
really needs to start getting off and jumping those barriers.
At this point.
Yeah, he's getting tired as well.
Do the barriers get a little higher each lap? Yeah, they raised
them. They had a centimeter. That's
those guys at the UCI, they're crazy.
Man, new technology in cyclocross.
Hydraulic barriers. Huh? Well, I think Johnson is fighting through a tough moment right now, Simon. I really do. Powers is trying to throw that knockout punch, but Johnson's not going to acquiesce.
Yeah.
If these 2 sprint, Brian, who's quicker?
Oh, Powers.
By a long shot?
Absolutely. If they go the line together, Powers has it. I mean, we've seen it multiple times. We saw it at the
Powers wins 9 out of 10.
Oh yeah, we saw it at the finale in Bend, Oregon at the USGP a couple of years ago. They came in tied on the final day. They went to the final 200 meters and Powers took it.
Simon, clearly Powers doesn't want to wait for a sprint here.
He doesn't. He's looking strong. That's skin of the teeth.
Yeah.
Psychologically, Johnson holds on and comes with him at 1 to go. Psychological advantage go to Johnson at that point if Powers can't punch his ticket here?
I don't think so.
No.
Looking at those two there, I think the best that Tim can hope for is taking Powers to a sprint.
Boy, I tell you, these are two of the craftiest bike racers in the sport as well. If there was a guy that I would worry about getting pinned up against the barricades by, it would be Tim Johnson.
Absolutely.
I mean he knows how to do Tai Chi on his cross bike. Powers too, for that matter.
He learned from
Johnson.
Johnson.
From Tim, right. I mean, these are two of the real gentlemen of the sport, but right now they've moved into their Dr. Jekyll from Mr. Hyde.
Oh, man,
mode.
they are sharks on the bike.
Yeah.
Sharks on the bike. Powers
I mean,
punches
you've got to
it
be
here.
a killer at this level. There's, both of these guys, it doesn't matter how nice you are off the bike. In order to win here, you've got to have the heart of a lion.
You don't get that red, white, and blue shirt without it.
No, and Johnson wants it back, clearly, at the end of this year.
To wear the national champions jersey into the Louisville Worlds, first time the elite World Cyclocross Championships have taken place outside of Europe. I mean, that's quite an honor.
It's interesting, Simon. I've said before in the sport, in order to win, you've got to risk losing. But it does not look to me like that's actually the situation for Powers here. I think he can try to ride Johnson off his wheel, and then if it doesn't work, maybe reset for a sprint here. Because I don't know that Burden's going to get back up to them. They're racing hard right now.
I can't see Burden getting back up, and I just can't see at the moment how Johnson is going to.
How do you crack that?
Put one
close?
over on Powers here.
I mean, sometimes the riddle is unsolvable, and we'll see. Tim Johnson is certainly a guy I just don't have the ability to bet against.
That's the thing about cyclocross, right? The unbelievable can happen. The unexpected happens nearly all the time. But, I mean, you can see here Powers has got a quick 3-second gap here on Johnson heading up that climb on the backside of the course.
With Louisville 2013 coming up, Powers is obviously very focused on that. Did he change his road season at all, Brian, this year to adapt for what's a big year for cross?
Well, he changed it, but I don't think it was as much related to Louisville 2013. I think it was more related to the fact that his Jelly Belly Kinda team didn't get the big U.S. invites. So
he would have raced a USA Pro Challenge.
Right, so he went to Philly. He did the big national level races, but he didn't get the Tour of California. He didn't get the Tour of Utah, the U.S. Pro Challenge.
So he probably kept a relatively high baseline of fitness with a pretty low central nervous system stress.
Right, he's not putting the sharp point on it.
Right. Yeah, well, it looks like the sword is sharp today, as they say.
Yeah, that's game over for.
As it looks like at this point now, I mean, he's got a victory lap ahead of him here. If all things go as planned, but it's the kind of course where you don't expect to see flat tires. You don't expect to see mechanical issues for riders. The drivetrain should be just about brand new out there right now. So you wouldn't expect there's too many variables that he's got to worry about other than just staying on the gas.
You wouldn't have expected Rob Peters to go down in that chase group either, though, earlier. And, it's interesting here. We saw Powers in the first 2 laps really struggle. He was back 20, 25 wheels in this race and really had to come from behind there. And here he is, made his way all the way back to the front, and now he's all alone going over the Spy flyover.
Now the question for me is Johnson going to hold on for silver, and it's looking pretty good for Tim right now, as Ben Burden doesn't look like he's closing anything down either. As a matter of fact, it looks like Johnson's got a larger gap on Burden than he did a couple minutes ago. But this guy is just unbelievable. Looking at Jeremy Powers right now out of Connecticut, actually, his home state.
I think Burden's going to come under some pressure on this last lap for that third place.
From Lucas.
Maybe Kabush. Kabush is closing it back down on him.
That's Johnson that we're looking at now in the green. That gap, it's not over, that's for sure. When you take a look at Powers, and he's going to be getting the bell coming through right now. So this is it. 1 lap of racing remaining. Pretty good look at the gap right there as you take a look at Tim Johnson getting his bell now. And so his gap is not as much as it is back to Burden right now.
That's just shy of 10 seconds there.
Yeah, 10 seconds on an 8-minute lap.
Especially on a surface
Burden
like
at
this.
19 seconds there. Yeah. And Kabush is 27 seconds, 8 seconds on Burden for that last podium spot.
You know, the thing is, Simon, Powers is breathing through his nose right now. I mean, he really looks comfortable. He's on a good
and
gear.
Van der Haar at 39 seconds.
These guys are
12
these guys
seconds
are
off Kabush.
Psychologically, for Powers, winning this race this way, couldn't start a season off on a better note, Simon, could you?
Absolutely. I mean, great for him, great for the team, great going into the first 2 World Cups. You know, with a win over some, you know, good notable European scalps. It's and you couldn't ask for better.
The guys that he's going to be racing against at World Championships for the next decade, really. Powers is kind of in a middling generation right now. Not quite as old as Johnson, but not quite as young as your Van der Haars.
Was he 29?
I believe he is, and that really is right now, right in the sweet spot of his career, actually.
I rode over to the venue today with the guys from Rafa, Slade Olsen, Krista Stefano. They were cool, but you could tell that they were feeling a little bit of pressure. I mean, they're unveiling the National Championships kit here. They're unveiling the team at Cross Vegas. They have a big presence here. And for Powers to come through in front of his sponsors here is pretty big time.
All I know is, like at the Amgen Tour of California, Rafa has been a sponsor of that event as far as our staff clothing goes. It is the most coveted stuff that we've ever seen. As Simon, as an Englishman yourself, I'm sure you're pretty aware that Rafa has got it going on.
Yeah, it's funny in England. Rafa's within a 20-mile radius of London, and outside of there, it's not so popular. It's a big London thing.
It's a London
big
thing.
London
Paul
thing.
Smith.
Yeah.
But they really are. It's an interesting company, that's for sure. Krista Stefano joining them from Chris King this year. And as we mentioned, Slade Olsen has been a great supporter of this sport. You know, it's interesting. It really is to see Jeremy Powers having this kind of form against this kind of field this early in the year. Obviously, 2013 is going to be the most significant season that he's ever had.
Yeah. I stopped by his team tent and spoke with Jeff Rowe, the operations manager for Rafa USA or for Focus USA, yeah. And, you know, it's usually a pretty upbeat, kind of crazy atmosphere around the tent. And I said, hey, you guys ready to rock tonight? How's everyone feeling? He said, no, we're ready to be cool. We're ready to be cool and collected. And you saw that from Powers tonight. He waited in the wings. He made his way back up to the front of the race after struggling early, and then he waited until the perfect time to pull the switch, and here he is.
Yeah, and Simon, that gap looks like it's gone over 15 seconds to me. Jeremy Powers is very much he's a DJ. He's almost a cult of personality unto himself. He has a internet TV show called Behind the Barriers that's followed him around the last couple of years that kind of gives you a feel for what his lifestyle. He's a relatively high-strung young man in a good way, but he marches to a relatively quick beat, I would say.
That he does. I profiled him in the personalities issue of Velo magazine back in February of this year, and I think that captures him pretty perfectly. He's
high-strung
high
in
energy,
a good
right?
way.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Positive, high energy. I mean, you won't meet a more upbeat, positive guy than Jeremy Powers.
Always got a nice word for you. Very pleasant boy. He's still picking a great line out there.
He's a little bit over halfway through this final lap. Johnson's still sitting at about 15 seconds there behind him. Simon,
you've seen a lot of racing over the years. This guy looks comfortable, doesn't he?
He does. Yeah, he's totally under control now.
As a matter of fact,
I always hold my breath when I say that when people start jumping barriers, but yeah, he looks good. You know, he was. I think he had his best World Cup performance at the Czech Republic last year. I think he was 10th, and I think the kind of shape he looks to be in now, a top 10 at an opening World Cup would be an achievement for him, and I think it's possible looking at the way he's going.
All things considered, should Johnson be happy with his opening salvo this year?
Absolutely. After last year, especially. Yeah, I think last year was one, like you said earlier, I think it's one for him to forget. I think he learnt a lot from it, and I think he's come out in a lot better shape, and I think we'll see him moving on through the season.
Look at the greatest athletes in sport. They don't have a great year every year, and it looks like Johnson's back. Go ahead, Brian.
This is of particular importance here as we look forward to the second round of the World Cup. As Simon mentioned earlier, the current points from early 2012 season will take effect for that second World Cup in the Czech Republic. This is a C1 event. It's the biggest event outside of Europe annually. Powers takes top points here. Johnson second points most likely. We have another C1, I believe, in Sun Prairie for the USGP stop there. These
Well,
guys are on form.
Them to be on the podium as well after what we saw tonight.
And Jeremy was incredibly disappointed last year with the rule change and how the UCI attributed points rolling over for 12 months when he missed out on a front row call-up in the Czech Republic for that second round of the World Cup. He might not have that same disappointment here this year. We might see him on that front row.
Your thoughts on that, Simon?
Yeah, it's true. You know, the system had to change at some point, and it's just unfortunate that it coincided with a few people losing out and a few people gaining, and now it's established. It gives the true standing of the riders where they are at in the world and which races they've competed in and how often they compete, which is, I think, important.
Well, who will be the top American in Louisville at our 2013 Worlds, and how far up the top 10 do they go? Or do they make the top 10 even? It's going to be very, very interesting. I say we do make the top 10. I think we put a couple riders in the top 10.
In the elite men's race?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd be very surprised if we didn't see Jeremy
I'll be
Powers
honest,
in that top 10.
he's one of them.
Yeah.
This will be his year. If it's ever going to happen, it's going to be 13.
And there are those long power straightaways there at Louisville as well. They're just made perfectly for a rider like Ryan Trebone.
We changed them. That course got tweaked at Masters Worlds last year. No, it's still a great course. It's a really all-round fair course. I think it'll be a great event. I think you'll see an American in the top 10. Yeah.
It certainly would be a nice validation for over here in the States. Obviously, we've been working a lot and trying to bring the sport along, and this is what we're talking about. Is Jeremy Powers will be our winner here at Cross Vegas. We're going to send Simon Burney out to grab a word with Jeremy, but can't be too much sweeter than this one. Talk about not missing a step out there today. This is your 2012 Cross Vegas champion for the Rafa Focus team, the American champion. Time to look back and put an exclamation point on that one. Jeremy Powers delivers here in Las Vegas, and that's our man Simon Burney that we'll be trying to grab a word with Mr. Powers here in just a moment. But Brian, that was an emphatic win for Powers today.
Man, what a way to show the national champions jersey here. It's his first major race in that jersey in the United States since winning it in January, and he comes through in front of the entire North American cycling industry. We see Tim Johnson there for second.
Looks like they might put two on the podium here for Cannondale Cyclocross. Burden for third, excuse me.
Yep.
And then that was the sprint we were watching wind up there.
Van der Haar was there in fourth, I believe, and then we saw Peters top out over Trebone there. And here's John Page coming over the flyover. Disappointment for Page. He came in with high hopes. He went down early in the race on the barriers.
Do you want to do this with Powers? Do you want to do this with Powers?
You do it. Yeah, you're awesome.
And we see here Arnaud Geoffroy come across the line there, the Telnet Fidea rider. Man, Dave, I mean, Jeremy Powers comes out. We talked earlier with Simon about being able to start hot here at Cross Vegas and continue all the way through the season and be hot again in Louisville in February.
Wire to wire.
Man, it's a long road for Jeremy Powers ahead, but he's carrying the national champions jersey. He's carrying a lot of motivation and obviously a lot of fitness.
Yeah, he's carrying the hopes of a nation at this point as well. You know, I know that Simon is going to be grabbing a word with Mr. Powers here in a moment. There's quite a scrum here after the finish line as we see Jamie Driscoll coming across the line just a moment ago. Boy, they timed this one out. If it was supposed to be an hour, they got it very, very close. This is Chris Jones coming across the line, teammate Jeremy Powers. Excuse me, Zach McDonald there.
Zach McDonald, the U23 national champion.
The wheelie is what tipped me off right away there.
He's not in a national champions kit. I'm surprised to see that.
That's one of the problems of being a U23 national champion. When you line up with the elites, you can only have one national champions jersey representing one country, and the elite trumps in that situation. So you don't, like when Amy wore the U23
or Katie Antonou last year.
Never see it.
Right.
You just don't see
we
that
did
jersey.
last year, surprisingly, for some reason.
Maybe it's because there was a separate U23 category.
Perhaps
right.
USGP and so forth. Yeah, perhaps.
Well, it certainly was a successful evening for bike racing here. As the Interbike show is it started actually a couple days ago with the outdoor demo, and today was the first indoor day of the show. But I think that just about everybody from the booths and the expo areas has made it out to the race tonight, and that's encouraging to see the industry supporting the sport, because the sport does so much for the industry.
It absolutely does, and it's amazing to see the crowds out here. I mean, every year at Cross Vegas, it's one of the highest attended races as far as fans are concerned in the country of the year, and this year doesn't disappoint.
And it's a good group of fans to be showing the sport to. These are the guys that work in the bike shops around America. A lot of them never get a chance to go to the races because they're always fixing bikes on Saturdays. So it's great to see them all out here. I know that Simon is anxiously waiting Jeremy Powers to make his way back down. That's another thing about Powers is he's an emphatic winner. And when he does, he's clearly the elevated mood around Jeremy is something that everyone feels, I think.
Absolutely. I hope my man Matthew Bowden, our VeloNews.com reporter, has him pinned to the barriers, putting him through the 10 questions here. As we see, I believe that's Brady Cappius from Cliff Bar come through the line there.
And Cappius Components. I saw VeloNews running a bit on their new hub. Cool stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. He and his father have a small component line and carbon fabrication business as well, based in Boulder, and Brady rides with the Cliff Bar Squad on mountain bike and cyclocross circuit.
I think that was Dylan McNicholas and then Troy Wells across the line here. These are some of the
Ken Benish there from Feedback Sports,
another great sponsor in this sport. Make the best bike racks in the world.
So who loses out tonight? Who are you surprised to not see make that podium here in Cross Vegas? I mean, Vanderhaar has to be at the top of that
Ryan
list.
Chabon for me as well. I thought he would be on there today. And I think that Vanderhaar and Peters, to tell you the truth, I thought that we would see both of them have better rides than they did. What do you think?
Yeah, Trebone doesn't surprise me as much because of the tactical game going on. I mean, once Johnson got away, Driscoll and Trebone really sat up on the front of that group and let that gap go out. And it makes sense, particularly in a race of this nature. I mean, it's not an incredibly technical course. In fact, I would say it's probably the least technical course on the UCI circuit of the year. And those road-style tactics come into play. So not surprised to see that at all. Yeah, I'd have to say Vanderhaar has to be the biggest surprise for me. Disappointed to see John Page. I mean, he needed to come out and show himself strong here, and he went down in the barriers early and did not get the result he was looking for.
I got to agree with what Simon was saying and talking about earlier, the effects of jet lag and everything that goes along with travel from Belgium to Las Vegas. I think it looked like it really affected Vanderhaar here this year, unlike last year where he was our winner. But congratulations again to Jeremy Powers, and I think honestly congratulations to the cycling industry for an excellent show tonight. I'd like to thank Brooke Watts for his vision with this race, that's for sure. Brooke's an incredible guy.
He is. I like rubbing shoulders with Brooke in our local New Belgium Cyclocross series back in Fort Collins.
You don't race in his category, do you?
He races in the A category or the open category with us, and just in the midweek training series. So it's fun to race against Brooke when he pulls on his Great Divide Brewing jersey there in the midweek cross series. We see Tyler Wren, the road pro from Jameis Sutter Home, come across the line there. He's racing the cyclocross season for Jameis this year after riding on Boo bikes for a year.
And I saw Skylar Trujillo is racing on Boo bikes this year. Those are the really cool bamboo bikes. I'm growing my own tubes at home right now. I'm going to get them over to the guys once it should be in the next 80 years or so. Bamboo grows a lot slower. Hey, I'm going to throw it to Simon Burney because it looks like Simon's going to have a chance to grab a word with our winner here today for the Rafa Focus team, Jeremy Powers. As a matter of fact, that's Ted King that Jeremy Powers is talking with, the League We Gas rider. And Simon, we'll throw it to you. A huge congratulations going out to Jeremy Powers.
Congratulations. How was it out there?
Oh, man, that was a hard day. I've been thinking about that for about a month now, and to finally pull it off, it just feels really, really good. So, where am I looking? Oh.
Cool. And what you got? World Cups 4 weeks, 5 weeks time. Are you still on an upward progression for those, or?
Yeah, definitely. I'm not super sharp yet, but I've been training, and I just had a lighter August for road season, and I think it made a big difference tonight, just having that ability to really pop when I needed to. At the beginning, I felt terrible. I had a long day of flying this morning because my flight got canceled last night, and I had to fly this morning and take a standby flight, which means that you don't have any security. So I got up, fingers crossed that I made it. I made it here at 10 a.m. and I got lucky.
The airport ninja came through again, did it?
Yeah, that was very, very much ninja tactics today.
Nice one. And then what about the rest of the season? You over for all the World Cups to Europe, or are you mixing it up? Yeah,
I definitely want to do some World Cups. My goal is to hit the top 5 and 1 before before October, or in October in one of those first 2 Czech races. Those suit me really well, and just improve on last year. Every year a little bit better, and I don't know. I feel like where I'm starting out now this year is definitely a good spot, and I hope that I can compete over in Europe with these guys.
10th last year, Tabor or Pilsen, I think, from memory. So you want to you improve on that one.
Pilsen. Yeah, definitely. I think a top 5 is in the cards, and I think then looking towards Louisville this year, that's my main goal is to do something special there. And I think if things go right and I get that top 5 and I really start progressing in that World Cup, then I'll have the confidence going to Louisville to do something. So. Right,
and the front row start at Louisville would be really off the back of that.
Be really, really important. So I think cyclocross is alive and well here in the States. I'm really happy the Euros came over, and it's just an awesome, awesome night for cyclocross. So,
Jeremy, time for the podium. Thanks a lot. Congratulations.
Awesome. Thank you, Simon.
You got to win. It's a top step of the podiums.
Love it if that were the case. I mean, we have, at Velo, we breathe cyclocross, and we've been looking for an excuse to put Jeremy Powers in his Rafa Focus kit on the cover as a cyclocrosser. Our last cyclocross cover was about a year and a half ago. I did a feature story on Zdeněk Štibar, and I think it's about high time that we do see Jeremy Powers come through with the top 5 in a World Cup, or perhaps even better, and find his way onto our pages.
Well, when this event was first conceptualized, I don't know that a lot of people thought it would be the success that it's become. You picking up what I'm putting down on that?
I am. I mean,
it's encouraging.
You take a cyclocross race. Cyclocross is known for being the cold, the wet, the muddy, the snowy discipline. You take a race and put it in the Nevada desert at a soccer field. In the middle of the night,
summer.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, it's a long shot, and now you see here as we have a look at some of our crowds. I mean, I don't know what the crowd estimate is here this evening, but we've had thousands of people out here. We've had races straight from 5 o'clock this evening, starting with the USA Cycling event, going through the huge wheelers and dealers race, I believe, with 150 riders or thereabouts, and then we have the elite women and men's field, and this race is attracting the top riders in the world. You have Van Passen, who's one of the top UCI ranked riders in the women's field. You have Georgia Gould and Leah Davison, who have just come off the Olympics and the World Mountain Bike Championships. You have in the men's field, you have a 2-time defending U23 world champion Lars van der Haar. I mean, it's just absolutely incredible fields coming over here, and this is big deal racing. This is a C1. It opens the big time UCI racing across the globe, and people are tuning in from Europe to see what's going on here in the Nevada desert.
And it's interesting, Brian, just like we'll watch pirated videos of Eurosport at incredible hours. Well, it's somewhere, I don't know, a little bit after 6 in the morning in Europe, and I'm sure you're right that a lot of people have been joining us, and we sure appreciate them. We'd love to have you come join us in Las Vegas some year, and I think that as our European colleagues make their way back, the stories will be great as we take a look at downtown Las Vegas and the Strip. From here, as we mentioned, we're about 6 miles off of the famous Las Vegas Strip in a Desert Breeze soccer complex here, and they're just about to begin the presentation of our final podium. Now as the riders, looks like those final preparations are being made. There is our main stage right in the middle of this relatively large soccer complex, I'd have to say. There must be a lot of people playing soccer in Vegas.
There must be, and European fans of cyclocross shouldn't wait for Cross Vegas next year to come back. Come to the States. Come to Louisville in February.
We would love to have you, and I think you'd be very impressed with what you see. To be honest, we've taken a lot of steps forward in America with cross, and we think we are ready to present a world championship that's worthy for prime time.
Absolutely, and we have a full week and a half of World Championship racing, starting with the Masters World Championships in late January, running straight through into the Elite Worlds. Come, make a week of it, check out what the American cyclocross scene is all about, and see what we bring to this sport as the World Championships leave Europe for the first time.
And to be honest, Louisville is a short flight from New York or a short flight from Florida. Once you're over in North America, there's plenty of things that you could do besides going to the World Championships. So certainly it's a nice time of the year to come to the United States and make your way down to Florida, that's for sure. So I could see some fun trips happening, that's for sure.
I hope so.
So they're right now getting our presentation underway. That's our stage announcer, one of our stage announcers, Larry Longo there. as his colleague John Leffler. It looks like they're going to make the presentation of the wicked fast lap, and the fastest lap of the day going to Jeremy Powers there. You know, saying it earlier, I am so impressed with this Rafa Focus National Championship kit. I've never seen one that looked better than leave it to the guys at Rafa.
I dig the black long sleeve too. There, it's nice, nice change from the mostly white skin suit top.
And then the alternate edition, the black jersey, looks very cool as well.
We see Elvis making his way up on stage there. He'll perhaps serenade us again here this evening.
We can only hope.
Man, what a couple of bubbly people to win races here in Vegas, Dave. We had Son of Van Passen, who was just through the roof. We see Ben Burden here taking his cowbell for third. But, I mean, Van Passen and Powers to take the wins here. Man, a couple of very excited riders.
Yeah, and another, you know, I got to say, you made the call earlier. Ben Burden did have a fantastic ride today. It might not have gone exactly the way that he wanted, but it'll be positive sensations that he takes from the day to day.
Yeah, I have to think so. I mean, particularly for a rider who's as technically gifted as he is to come out on a course like this and hang. It bodes well for when he gets into those more technically demanding courses later in the season. Tim Johnson takes his cowbell, finishing second here. He poses with Elvis, of course. Johnson has to take a lot of confidence out of this race as well. He started slow last year, had a season to forget for the most part, and he's already back near the top here at Cross Vegas in 2012. And that leaves one man to join them on the podium here in Vegas.
I noticed as Johnson came across the line, I think he's pretty satisfied with the performance that he had here.
Absolutely.
You don't have to win to walk away feeling good about yourself always. And a lot of respect between those two former teammates over many years now, as that is Powers on the top step.
So Powers now in the last, I guess, 18 months has won 2 USGP overall titles. He's won the national title. He's finished top 10 in a World Cup. He's won Cross Vegas. He's won nearly every American event there is on the calendar. He won half of the USGPs a year ago. He certainly has arrived, Dave.
Yeah, now he's in full effect. You know, these three are going to be a big part of our American season, no question. I'll be surprised if we see too many podiums presented that doesn't have one of those guys on it this year.
Yeah, I'd expect another guy that we'll see up there will be Ryan Trebone here before long.
Yeah. All right, well, we are going to say good night, as we certainly hope you've enjoyed the show from here in Las Vegas. For my colleagues, I want to say thank you very much to Simon Burney and Brian Holcomb. Great job, gentlemen, and we'll look forward to seeing you back at Cross Vegas in 2013. To everyone out there, go enjoy a great bike ride. We'll see you next year.